again. It's a rich thing.
What's going on, everybody? It's the Bull Show, aka Aidan, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, we've done a key takeaways video for the Pelicans game, for the Denver Nuggets game. It's only right that we do it for the Toronto Raptors game as well. Today, we'll be looking at the key things that I at least saw from that Chicago Bulls and Toronto Raptors game, and kind of talk a little bit more about it, talk about my issues, talk about the positives, talk about my worries, and talk about the optimistic signs ahead for the Chicago Bulls, as we do have one more preseason game to look forward to very, very soon. Before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show. Turn notifications on and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls and the Toronto Raptors game. Of course, every worry or positive that you have, let me know in the comments below if you agree or disagree with some of the ones that I say as well. Just in general, your overall thoughts on the Bulls preseason so far, as we are nearing towards the end. And the ending game for Milwaukee will be very interesting, as we don't know the lineups, we don't know the minutes that people are going to get, we don't know the approach we're going to take. We might rest guys, we might play the best lineup we possibly can. I think Milwaukee are not playing their best lineup at the moment as well, so it'd be interesting to see how the Bulls will counteract and match the Milwaukee Bucks if they decide to do so. So very, very interesting last game. But we're not here to talk about that right now. We're here to talk about the key takeaways for that Raptors game. And of course, in the game reaction, I talked a lot about the first half, and I'm going to talk about the first half here in this game as well. Now, I'm not necessarily going to tell you how bad it was. You know how bad it was if you watched the first half of that game, and you know my thoughts on it if you watch the game reaction. What I'm here to tell you about that first half, it proves that the Bulls are not fully there yet in what they want to do on the offensive end. The game against Denver was so good offensively because we saw things we never saw before with the Chicago Bulls. We saw movement, we saw backdoor cuts, we saw just people beating their man to the rim, we saw very, very nice passing, we saw all these beautiful things from the Chicago Bulls. But so far, throughout the preseason, with the Pelicans game and the Raptors game specifically, we can clearly identify that we are not consistent in how we want to play our offense right now. That doesn't mean it won't change in the future. As I've mentioned before in the Denver game, the way that we wanted to play in that game is going to take so long to really get to perfection in relation to that offense throughout the regular season. It's not going to be just a preseason thing that we have to work on. It's going to take a long time to play that style of offense on a consistent basis and on an effective basis. And I think we saw exactly that with the Toronto Raptors game and how disappointing it was in the first half of that game. And that's something we have to look forward to, whether we like it or not. We are going to have to take those bad performances in the hope that they are going to be building something in the future. Because we saw stagnation today. We saw the ball go to two players and just shoot the ball and hope for the best. We saw just basic pick and rolls and no real movement. We saw all of that in this game against the Toronto Raptors. So it's not consistently built in their minds yet on constantly moving, on how to play, the movement of the ball and things like that. They need to work on that. And they're going to have to work on that throughout the majority of the regular season, in my opinion, until we really start to see those big improvements. Maybe it will take Alonzo Ball returning to see those drastic improvements as well, as he tries to get accustomed to the new offense as well. So it's a big, big time ahead for the Chicago Bulls. But that's probably the biggest key takeaway I take away from this Toronto Raptors game, is that this offense, the way that we should be playing this offense, or the way that I think the Bulls want to play this offense, it will take a lot of time to learn. So expect those inconsistencies, expect those performances going up and down from the first half to the second half, because at the end of the day, if we're trying to build something like that, it's going to take time. And hopefully we don't suffer too many losses in the process, but that could also be something that we might have to see down the line as well. Just trying to be brutally honest, again, I know people think that the players just play basketball and whoever has the better team, whoever has the better players win the game. It's about the system as well, the structure of the players, where they're supposed to be, who's going to be cutting, who's going to be the guy passing, things like that, the angles, everything like that has to be taken into consideration. And that's why it will take a lot of time. No matter how good our players will be or are, it will take time for them to play that style. So very, very interesting there. But I think it's a style we can all respect and admire, especially that Denver Nuggets game. I really appreciated that first half and that overall performance against the Denver Nuggets. It's something I'd like to see continue going forward. Let's move into another key takeaway, ladies and gentlemen. We need to talk about Zach LaVine for a little bit. Now, I'm not going to stress how disappointed I am with Zach LaVine, because at the end of the day, there are a lot of circumstances prior to this preseason that could be playing a factor into why he's performing the way that he is. But the first 3 preseason games, I think, for Zach LaVine's standards, has been extremely disappointing. And I have to get it out of the way. I have to talk about it, even though it's not ideal, even though I know a lot of people will say it's just preseason. Let's wait till the regular season, and that's all fine and good. But if you're talking about key takeaways from preseason, Zach LaVine has to be one of them that we have to mention. Whether we like it or not, what his performances have shown are there. It's there for everybody to see, and it's not performances that we necessarily like. The first game, I think, is understandable. He only played half the game. The second game against the Denver Nuggets, he got 6 assists. And I thought, okay, look, he didn't score the way that he should have or the way that we expect him to, but he was playmaking. He was making a difference in the game, even though he wasn't scoring. The third game was by far the worst. He had 9 points, but he had 5 turnovers, and it was really, really poor in terms of his shot selection as well. And he was just doing a lot of basic errors and even just unnecessary errors as well that led to a very disappointing performance. So I'm very optimistic Zach LaVine can turn this around. Of course I am. The guy got a max contract at the end of the day. The guy has averaged 20 plus points for a long, long time now. So I expect Zach LaVine to turn it around, and I have faith Zach LaVine will turn it around. But in this preseason, I think he's been one of the most disappointing stories out of all the Bulls players right now. So we've got to take a patient approach, of course, but I do feel like it is important to call out. And obviously, there's one more game for Zach LaVine to really kick things into gear and just be the Zach LaVine that we all come to expect from him. At least that version, even if it's not the best version of Zach LaVine, at least be a Zach LaVine that can get to the foul line. Be the Zach LaVine that's going to be aggressive. Be the Zach LaVine that is not going to make stupid decisions on the floor. And then I think a lot of people will just say, look, it's just preseason. Let's move on to the regular season. Zach LaVine will be what Zach LaVine will be. And I think a lot of people are fine with that. So I feel like it is important to call out. Something else to call out, the power forward positions have changed multiple times now. 3 games in a row, we've seen 3 different power forwards. First game being Patrick Williams, second game being Javonte Green, third game being Derrick Jones Jr. I said this in the game reaction, and I'm going to say it here as well. I didn't like it when we were discussing about the point guard decision, and I'm actually happy we've stuck with Ayo for 3 of those games, and maybe we could see Caruso in the next one, but ideally I am happy with Ayo Dosunmu starting all the games at the point guard position. I'm not happy with the Chicago Bulls playing 3 different power forwards. One, the power forward position is already thin enough as it is, and we know there are certain guys that are just not going to start, like a Derrick Jones Jr. I like Derrick Jones Jr. off of our bench. I thought it was a good re-signing when we actually decided to do that. I think it helped us financially, and obviously he's a decent player as well that has room that he can improve on. He's only 25 years old. So it was a good signing overall, but Derrick Jones Jr. is not going to be starting for the Chicago Bulls unless there are major injuries in place. And that's going to be a worry if we see Javonte Green and or Patrick Williams be injured throughout this season. It might happen for a couple of weeks, but if we're talking about a long-term injury, that's going to affect us heavily. So I hope we don't see that. But I don't see why Derrick Jones Jr. would start it in this game against the Toronto Raptors. And I think his performance and just the overall performance of the starting lineup in the first half indicated that that starting lineup did not work very well. And again, I wanted to see consistency. We're trying to form an identity as a Bulls team. You need to see consistency in the starting lineup. Of course, if guys are not playing well and guys are playing better, you make that adjustment. For example, Patrick Williams, for the first 2 games, he had 1 good quarter in the third quarter against the Nuggets, but the last 3 games have not been very good for Patrick Williams. I think everybody can admit that. And Javonte Green's last 3 games have been absolutely superb, coming off the bench and starting for the Chicago Bulls. So in terms of form and actually playing the guys that are playing better, Javonte should start over Patrick Williams. But Derrick Jones Jr. has not shown that he's played better than any of those guys. And we know, based on last season, he's not going to be a guy that we turn to as the majority of the starting lineup for the Chicago Bulls. I believe he started 8 games out of the season that he actually had. Correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong on that. But ideally, he's not going to be a starter. So I did not really understand why we put him there. Did we put him there just for the sake of trying it out? Did we put him there just to give him a fair opportunity at the power forward position? Or did we really think he could be something, the answer for the Chicago Bulls? I don't know. But personally, I just didn't see it. And maybe someone can explain it to me and it might be easier to understand. But I didn't necessarily like that. But I think Javonte Green has earned that starting spot for the Chicago Bulls. I know we need size. Patrick Williams is someone that can add size to this team, but Patrick Williams isn't playing very well right now. And in my opinion, Patrick Williams has played better off of the bench, in all honesty, than at the starting lineup. So make that adjustment and see how we go from there. It's not like Patrick Williams will not play at all. He can still add size to the team. It doesn't necessarily always need to be in the starting lineup. Size in general could very much be important for us as well. In my opinion, whoever gets us the best results, if Javonte Green is playing better, he should play. And if Patrick Williams is playing better on the bench, then he plays on the bench. And maybe those adjustments can be made throughout the season. Maybe they'll swap from time to time. But ideally, I think whoever plays better in those positions should stay in those positions. And that's why Javonte Green, in my opinion, should start. Patrick Williams should come off the bench. But if for whatever reason Javonte Green is out of form and Patrick Williams is coming into his own, then make the switch, because we could see Patrick Williams really thrive in the starting lineup if he is playing the way that we hope he can play. So basically, pick players on form, but don't pick players that are never going to start for the Chicago Bulls just because we can, and things like that. I don't think that's what preseason should be about. Play people in the positions that they're going to play. Let them get accustomed to the positions, and the next man up mentality will have to come when players are going to be injured. At least that's my perception on how things should go. We'll wait and see how the Bucks game goes as well. I also wanted to talk about Dalen Terry. I thought Dalen Terry is actually very impressive in this game as well, just because of the fact that he actually got meaningful minutes in this game. Now, I said in the game reaction as well, the fact that Dalen Terry, this is basically the Bulls lineup that they're going to trust at the regular season. And the fact that Dalen Terry got minutes and played well in those minutes shows that Billy Donovan and the coaching staff are trusting him. Even if it's in small minutes throughout the regular season, I think they trust Dalen Terry a little bit more throughout this preseason to really go and attack the regular season. So that is a positive in every sense of the word, and I'm very happy for Dalen Terry. But I mentioned Dalen Terry in two other videos. I don't need to go too much further into him in this one. But yeah, overall, I think the starting lineup and the first half was not very good. Obviously, the second half was much, much better. We ended up winning the game because of that. And we just got to look at the patience side of things. We're going to look at how the Bulls want to play and how they're going to get there. And honestly, the way that I see them getting there is through a lot of trials and tribulations, a lot of errors, a lot of mistakes, a lot of frustration. But it's in the hopes that one day we will see a perfect Bulls performance filled with lots of creativity, with lots of movement, with lots of passing, with lots of easy opportunities, and of course, a strong defense to back them up as well. And maybe we can become a dangerous team when that happens. But thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. That's my key takeaways for the Bulls in the Toronto Raptors game. We have one more game against Milwaukee. Let's see how we line up. Let's see who we play and who we rest. Let's see how Milwaukee plays and who they play and who they rest. And time will tell whether or not we can end this preseason with a positive record, or if we go split even neutrally, 2 apiece, 2 wins and 2 losses. Have a wonderful and safe day. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care and peace.